Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, we talked about in our last video Donald Trump having a clear path to victory that leads through the state of Pennsylvania, and how if he gets Pennsylvania, it's extraordinarily difficult for Kamala Harris to win the election because she would essentially have to run the table bearing some unforeseen circumstances. And in today's video, I kind of wanted to analyze the most likely, or I guess I would say the easiest pathway to victory for Donald Trump in the 2024 election, because it's 270 to win. And we talked a lot about Pennsylvania in yesterday's video, but there's some other states. I kind of want to go in depth in every state, kind of expand off of that and kind of show the situation that Donald Trump is in. You know, there's a lot of noise with national polling, and that's technically true. You see shifts in, one direction or another time and time again in certain polls. Donald Trump in Real Clear Politics, he's leading enough states to win. On top of that, he is leading, or he's just trailing by 1.5 points in the popular vote. Some other aggregates that include some more liberal polls that have, sketchy past to them as well. They're showing him down by a little bit more than that. But either way, it's all noise. We have to fill out this map because certain states are going to go in certain directions regardless. And all the states that I'm filling out here are going to end up going for Donald Trump by, some margin or another, no matter what. And I think that includes a few states that I'm not going to fill out just yet because I want to expand a little bit on them in detail. But in terms of the Democrats, yeah, they're going to get California, Oregon, Washington. They're really going to, win all these states, most likely up here in the Northeast, including Maine's 1st district there. They'll take Illinois, they'll take Colorado, they'll take the state of Hawaii, even if the margins dip or they grow in some of those states, not really going to impact the outcome overall. Now, in order to get Donald Trump a pathway to victory, he's going to really have to win all these states that he won in 2020. We're going to save North Carolina for later because it's still competitive, but none of these states are really a concern. Iowa's not a concern. Ohio's not a concern. Maine's 2nd district is not a concern. Florida, 30 electoral votes, no longer a concern. Texas was, Democrats really hoped in 2020 they could make it close until they found out that all that increased Hispanic turnout in South Texas just ended up inadvertently helping Donald Trump. And the state of Alaska, believe it or not, of all the 2020 states aside North Carolina, Alaska, just because it can be so unpredictable, that's probably the most concerning compared to a state like Texas, Florida, Ohio, Iowa. But still, I think Trump is going to win Alaska just fine. They don't really like incumbents all that much, and Kamala Harris is representative of that incumbent administration. Now, I think the Democrats, we'll give them all of the non-Big 7 states here just because I want to make a point. Is it possible that if everything goes wrong for her and everything goes right for Trump, we can get back to that Trump-Biden, polling level in July? Maybe. At that point, we could be talking about expanding the map. There's been a few polls showing Virginia being closer than a lot of people expected. 2 polls in a row that were released this past week had Kamala Harris up by just 3 points there. But still, it's going to take a lot to flip that state. And as of right now, focusing on it's probably not the highest priority. So it leaves us the Big 7 here. And in terms of getting Donald Trump to 270, it's easier to do it in the least amount of states as possible. And we talked about the pathway a little bit in yesterday's video, but it's clear, and it's abundantly clear he has to win North Carolina. And I believe he's going to win North Carolina. And we can analyze the state, and we could talk about what is kind of changing in the state. There's a lot of, red areas that have a decent population size, and they're spread across the state. You got the exurbs of Charlotte. They did move left to an extent, not as much as, suburban Atlanta did, but just very Republican-friendly, Republican-leaning counties. And Donald Trump very well could improve in a lot of them. He will likely do better in northeastern North Carolina and southeastern North Carolina as well, as he did in many counties in the 2020 election. He might do a little bit weaker in the Appalachia area because Asheville is growing, but he's still going to, bank a decent amount of votes here. And you could even compare it to the Senate race here. I think that the race is going to shake out very similarly to the Senate race, where Ted Budd, he won the state by about 3 to 4 percentage points. Trump might win it by a little bit less than that, but I think he's going to take the state. You had decent black turnout, comparatively speaking, in 2022. And the educational attainment of the white voters in North Carolina were higher of an average in 2022. But still, Ted Budd, despite embracing Donald Trump, embracing MAGA, he did even better than Donald Trump. And it's very possible. And he was outspent as well. He was outspent, but he still won by 121,000 votes, almost 122,000. But you look at the shift map, northeastern and southeastern North Carolina, very much to the right. Now, in terms of the research triangle, relatively stagnant, maybe slight losses here, and definitely some losses in western North Carolina due to growth that we see there, but also some of that might be white working class voters dropping off as well. But you look at it, this is a state where Republicans, just when you think Democrats are gaining, there's somewhere that Republicans just continuously grow their margins in. I think Donald Trump's going to take the state. You look at voter registration, even after Kamala Harris, and I guess you would say replaced Joe Biden in that whole ordeal. The registration numbers for Democrats, have they improved in some places in terms of registrations? Yeah, but they're still losing on net a decent amount, and that's not exactly changing, and that's not exactly good for them. So you look at this, we talk about the average makeup of North Carolina in 2020. It was actually less white in 2022 in that electorate, but still Republicans did improve overall. Same thing goes for the whole average educational attainment as well when you look at this and compare by a little bit, but you see that. And overall, North Carolina, probably it's going to go to Trump. I would anticipate that it would. Up next is the state of Georgia, which is another crucial state for Donald Trump. Can he win without it? Yeah, but I think this is one of those states that Harris definitely makes things interesting in, even compared to, pre-debate Joe Biden, because of the fact that you do have a very high black population. You also have that urban suburban core, a lot of college educated white voters in the suburban areas of Atlanta. They are more Republican than those in the Rust Belt, but still that's kind of changing in recent years. They're moving to the left by more. The question is, are they going to really continue to move left during this administration, or are they kind of plateauing? That's definitely a question. We have these maps here, North Carolina and Georgia, where Trump's percentage overall, because a lot of people look at the shift, but the percentage decline, you didn't see it all that much in, the Charlotte area. You did see it in the research triangle a little bit more, but he really gained in a lot of these red counties and rurals. But Georgia, Atlanta, definitely a lot of growth. It's slowed, so that's good news for Donald Trump overall when you look at that. But it just comes down to, can you get the base out? Now, Brian Kemp is giving his resources to Trump. Seems like they're kind of mending fences. That's always a good sign. I think Trump could have won the state without. But still, it comes down to turnout. Is Trump getting out the rural areas? Is he doing a little bit better in the suburbs, depending on where? Are Democrats getting the turnout level they got in a place like Fulton and DeKalb? I don't know if I see that. And Trump, even making modest gains with black voters without alienating his own base. Is that possible? Yeah, and definitely it's not going to move mountains for sure, but does that help out in a place like Atlanta where you have a decent share of the electorate that is of that designation? Absolutely. It's a state that has been hit hard by the border crisis as well. You've heard about the Lake and Riley case that took place in the state of Georgia. Republicans, they just got to get their voter base out. Democrats, they claim that they have all these volunteers there, and they had to revise the number down today. But either way, this state, I think it's going to be close. I really do. But I think that Donald Trump probably does pick it off just based off of persuasion, based off of the fact that I don't think you're going to see these rapid shifts to the left in the Atlanta area that you saw in 2020 due to growth, due to, several other things. I think that Donald Trump is probably going to be in a good shape in Georgia overall. So you can probably put that in his column, but you need one more state. And we talk about Pennsylvania. That's huge. Can Trump technically get there with Arizona, Wisconsin? Yeah, that is another pathway. And I think that he probably can get both of those states, and we could do more of an in-depth analysis on them. But Pennsylvania, that gets him to 270. that puts him across the finish line. We polled Pennsylvania. Trump is up by 1, and this was the day after the DNC. We actually didn't see really any response bias at all, which kind of was surprising compared to our national sample. But still, him being up in Pennsylvania, that is good news. We did a video yesterday on that, but still, you look at the state of Pennsylvania. This is a state that still has a lot of room to grow for Republicans among these white working class voters. And definitely that helps out in a place like North Carolina, maybe a little bit less in Georgia because they're already close to maxed out, but still trends are helping Donald Trump. Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris of all people in terms of white working class voters. That's kind of the question. In terms of the callback sample from our poll, seems like Trump is doing better with those same exact voters than he was doing in 2020 in our poll, despite the crosstabs, because they do cancel out. But you look at Pennsylvania, and you look at the rural areas here, they're very red, and they've moved to the right, even in 2020. But east of this line, you did have a little bit of a potential home field advantage for Biden. And that's definitely going to be wiped away for sure. And you did see this here. It's very unlikely Donald Trump is going to lose in, like, Luzerne County, for example. Of course, that's Biden with the Scranton LARP. Definitely people were comfortable with him enough if they were, asking questions about Trump or whatever. Biden did get some of those voters there. Trump actually improved in Philadelphia city proper. He likely does that again. The suburbs, I think there's a couple suburban counties that he might do worse in, but I think he could rebound in a place like Bucks County, possibly even Butler County after the whole incident as well. I think Pennsylvania is a very decisive state. It's why Donald Trump is putting so much time, energy, and resources into Pennsylvania. And at the end of the day, I think that he's going to end up winning it. The polls actually show him ahead now. That was not the case back in 2020 in late August. And in terms of party registration data, it's also looking good for Republicans, Pennsylvania and North Carolina. Some of that is ancestral Democrats coming over, but a lot of that as well does have to do with the current administration at hand. So that's the path to 270. Now, can Trump win Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona? I think he's favored in at least Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada. And in terms of the latter two, that party registration data looks phenomenal for Republicans. Especially in a state like Nevada where they've netted, over double the margin of loss since 2020, that likely if they just need to get these voters out, that's exactly what matters. People need to volunteer. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the potential avenues that people can take for it, because I kind of want to, make sure that we can get as many people in the audience aware that want to help out, that want to get involved, chase ballots. But regardless, make sure you get everybody registered to vote. Make sure you get everybody out to vote, so we can win, because I think that we have enough votes already to win the election no matter what. The problem is turnout, and it's honestly turnout a little bit more than persuasion. And I'm not saying persuasion doesn't matter, but turnout is the number one thing. And obviously Democrats with Kamala Harris, part of the reason why they replaced Biden wasn't necessarily because they, thought that Harris would win, but because they thought that they could manufacture hype to energize their voter base, and Republicans need something to counteract that. I still think that Trump is the favorite, especially because he's the favorite in enough states needed to give him 270 electoral votes. That matters more than the national popular vote in terms of determining the outcome, determining the winner. But still, North Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and the other 2020 states, that's enough. So we got to get out and vote, but those are the states that are of Donald Trump's highest priority right now, especially because early voting in some of these states like North Carolina, Pennsylvania, it starts next month. I don't know the exact date on Georgia, but some of these other states do start a little bit later than that. And that's not to say they're not important, but those are the three that Trump is focusing the most on right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. But anyways, guys, make sure you like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.